Shalom friends, and welcome to this course, An Introduction to Chassidus. My name is Yaakov Klein. I've spent the better part of the last 10 years of my life digging deep into the foundational texts of this incredible movement of spiritual revival. And I'm so privileged to be able to have this opportunity to be able to share some of these ideas that so greatly influenced my life with all of you. So please join me on this incredible journey to rediscover the soul of our tradition. So what is our subject? What is Chassidus? Why is it important for today? Why should we be learning about it? Why should we be engaging with it? One of the most fundamental concepts in Judaism is the concept of redemption. We long for redemption, we pray for redemption. We understand that the world as it is now isn't the way that it should be. And redemption connotes the experience of exile. Exile doesn't just mean that we're not where we should be. Exile means that nothing is as it should be. Things are not in their natural state. When a person is ill, in a certain way, they're in exile because they're away from their natural state of being healthy. When a person falls into poverty, they're away from their natural state of financial well-being. When things are fragmented, they're in exile because they're distant from their natural state of being whole, of being one. In the late 1700s, early 1800s, the Jewish nation was in the throes of exile. They were as distant from the vision of what they could potentially become as ever. They had suffered centuries of persecution, anti-Semitic pogroms that left them absolutely devastated. And when a beacon of hope began to reveal itself in the form of a promising messianic prospect by the name of Shabtai Tzvi, that gave them strength, and they all rallied behind it, and they believed that maybe this was it, maybe this was the end of the suffering. But when he was exposed to be a sham, and when he eventually converted to Islam, this left the Jewish nation even worse than they were in the beginning. Devastated physically, devastated spiritually, losing hope. It was against this backdrop that the Master of Heaven and Earth saw it fit to send a new perspective down into the Jewish tradition. This perspective was called Chassidus. Literally translated as piety, Chassidus was a spiritual revival movement that gifted the Jewish nation of that generation and of generations subsequent down to this very day with a paradigm shift in the way that they could view their situation. A paradigm shift in the way that they could view the hopelessness that they felt themselves entrenched in. Chassidus brought new life to the Jewish nation. It reintroduced the people to so many of the elements that have been lost throughout the long and bitter exile. Elements like music, hope, simplicity, joy, consciousness, experiential faith, immersive prayer, so many other elements that were stamped out by circumstance, by the bitter exile. The vision of one man, Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Chassidus, soon became a mass movement that spread like wildfire throughout the entirety of Europe and beyond. As the movement grew, the movement became more defined, more institutionalized. Hasidic courts sprung up in order to preserve the spirit of the Baal Shem Tov's revelation. New dynasties, from father to son, and from them to their children and onward, began to reveal new facets and angles of this spiritual message to revitalize their very large and growing communities. And this is what developed in Europe from the beginning of the 18th century all the way up until World War II, the Holocaust. When 2 out of every 3 Jews were murdered, the Hasidic populations were specifically devastated, being much more identifiable by nature. Ultimately, from those embers, the great flame of Chassidus rose up again in a miraculous fashion, with the survivors gathering around whichever Hasidic master survived, who found it within themselves and within the foundational messages of hope that the Baal Shem Tov preached to rebuild, and rebuild they did. Today, there are tremendous communities of Chassidus, Satmar, Chabad, Breslov, Belz, many different separate communities that all draw on the inspiration of the Baal Shem Tov and seek to continue carrying on living his vision in the modern world. Now, like anything that begins with vision and seeks to protect that vision throughout the generations, it runs the risk of over-institutionalization, where things can become rote and where the rituals that are put in place specifically to preserve the fire can counterintuitively serve to dim it when we focus more on the external than the spirit that it intends to preserve. But today, men and women from across the demographic spectrum of the Jewish community are rediscovering that initial flame of the Baal Shem Tov's radical message. It's more relevant now than ever when we face the darkness of our times, the postmodernist cynicism and despair that so many have sunken into, the mental health crisis that's overwhelming all of us collectively and many of us individually. We're rediscovering that something that seems like it may have only been relevant in backward, small little cobblestone villages or shtetla, small little insular Jewish communities in 18th century Ukraine, might actually hold the secret to our redemption, to being able to return to our natural state of unity, peace of mind, health, and well-being.